Alright, so this third video on morals and dogma, just what I found, just scanning through quickly and making sure that I put things into context, understanding the chapters reflect the degrees, and understanding it was written for the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree for the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States, Charleston, 1871. So let's look at the timeline. This video is about martial arts, my martial art challenge, and how it pertains to eugenics. But I'll simplify it and say Albert Pike, the title will be Albert Pike helped usher in the age of eugenics and set the stage for them to have another key reason to deny me my rightful position in the world. Remember, Galton also helped come up with the principles that would eventually go into the modern IQ test, you know, as he tried to argue for, you know, intelligence and so on. And this goes back to Mason's valuing intellect over superstition as well. So let's look at the timeline, shall we? Sir Francis Galton first coined the term eugenics in 1883. Albert Pike was born in 1809. He wrote this Morals and Dogma, 1871, and he died in 1891, 20 years later. So let's see, who else is, a famous figure in eugenics besides Galton and, I would argue, Pike? But that is not on record, but I'll prove that in this video. Margaret Sanger. I've said before in one of my freestyles, I said, him and Margaret Sanger, referring to Hitler, you're the reason I'm a banger. A lot of you don't understand that. You'll have some dumb, fat, white cop who will say, he wants to blame his mistakes in life on some fucking bitch who died in 1966. Nah. Go back to eating donuts and shut the fuck up and let me finish my point, punk. Anyway, Margaret Sanger was a nurse in the poor neighborhoods of New York City when she founded the first birth control clinic in the U.S. in 1916. Next time you think nurses care about you, that nurses in psych wards wouldn't dare partake in eugenics, that racism is something for the suburbs. Keep in mind that Margaret Sanger and her principles went into the Liberal Party. This was before King. King was a Republican. The Democratic Party used to be the party of the KKK. Keep all these things in mind. Okay? And Margaret Sanger actually gave a speech to the KKK. But we're not going to cover that in this video. So, at the time, it was illegal to publish and distribute information on contraception and the prevention of sexually blah, 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 transmitted diseases. Okay. So, just like with Masonry, part of what she was doing was good. A small, very small part in this case. Part was evil. All of it was for the furtherance of a Masonic order to society. Now, she was born in 1879. She died, as I said earlier, in 1966. Okay, and her first birth control clinic is in 1916. So what does this tell you? Well, it tells you that Pike, started being a major figure. He came out with a book as a factor established in the Scottish Rite, writing this for the Supreme, for the 33rd degree, the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree for the Southern Jurisdiction in 1871. Okay? And, as I pointed out in my last two videos, okay, he said that life is a battle, and to fight that battle heroically and well is the great purpose of every man's existence who is worthy and fit to live at all. At all? Let me get you one more thing for the timeline. I think I might just print out this timeline and put it on the screen for you. All right. So Annie Besant, all right, she was the second president of the Theosophical Society from 1907 to 1933. Reminds me of the Martin Luther King who says, we aren't going to let Annie something, turn us around, right? I'm not going to let Annie Besant, the spirit of the poltergeist, the spirit of Annie Besant and her followers, turn me around. Okay, Annie Besant, blah, 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 co-masonry, I think it's 1902. Let me just double check this real quick. Okay, co-masonry began in France in the 1890s. All right. So, absolutely, you can connect, the co-masonic lodge, the male and female lodge to this. Because before Margaret Sanger, there's co-masonry. Well, I'll put it in the fucking timeline. I don't want to take up any time looking for this. I thought I could just find it real quick. But yeah. I'm going to put this picture of Annie Besant wearing 33rd degree Masonic regalia. Okay. And she was a socialist. There's a whole lot of parallels you can draw between her and the anti-Christian Margaret Sanger. Okay. Eastern Federation. So wherever the Theosophical Society, including Annie Besant, George Arundel, Charles W. Leadbeater, he's a fucking scumbag. I've come across that name in eugenics before. C. Gennaro Jadasa and Henry Steele Olcott. Oh man, these people, wow. I'm just looking for one thing and it just, brings me to another thing. This guy, this fucking guy. Yeah, I've come across him in the Theosophical Society before. Pedophilia, occultism. I don't want to get sidetracked here. Basically, when you look at it, yes, there's a connection between eugenics and the Scottish Rite. There's a connection between eugenics and masonry. Let me just wrap this video up. Because I'm not feeling too good right now. So anyway, going back to life is a battle, and to fight that battle heroically and well is the great purpose of every man's existence who is worthy and fit to live at all. So eugenics was the idea that some people are not fit to live and they should be sterilized, the self-direction of mankind, and it involves all the sciences. So masonry and eugenics are connected in a way that they're connected at the hips. Masons put in the leaders. Eugenics needs leaders and influential people to push its program. And since eugenics has gone underground, and their agenda has gone underground because of World War II stigmatizing it, it's gone basically into the secret society lodges and what have you, and they're using their Masonic network to subtly push eugenics policies. But you know them by their works. You know what's going on by the effect on society. I cover what a lot of people don't want to cover, the 65 million plus preventable deaths and abortion, and absolutely Sanger and abortion and fit to live and so on. And I've connected all these things in my other videos. So basically I've proven my point. I don't want to go any more into detail. I can go on and on about all the things I've talked about in this video, but let me just wrap it up there. So to sum things up, I have connected Albert Pike, who has a statue in Washington, D.C., probably the most famous known high-ranking Mason in history. We know that Washington was a Mason, but was he, a high-ranking guy who made rituals for the Scottish Rite? Probably not. Okay, so, he's probably the most famous, or at least top 5 most famous high-ranking Masons who's known as a high-ranking Mason. I've connected him to Galton, to Sanger, to Besant, the Theosophical Society, to Freemasonry, and I've proven that, it was this kind of other secret society that pushed the co-Masonic movement in Masonry. So when you think about the deeper implications of that, I've also given you an example of how Masonry works with other secret societies to create political change, and how other secret societies influence Masonry. And you can imagine how Illuminism and the Illuminati influenced Masonry as well. So when you look at all this, is it this kind of crazy conspiracy theory that I'm talking about? No. These are the facts. These are unavoidable facts. These are pretty self-evident facts. Masonry is responsible for eugenics. Not necessarily because of, every person who came up with the idea being a Mason. Okay, not necessarily. But certainly it set the stage for it. It ushered in eugenics. Masons ushered in eugenic thought. Okay, as such, as a recognized Western pseudoscience. As a recognized Western quote unquote science. And I would go as far as to say, since psychology used to be a branch of philosophy, and Masons are the major factors in philosophy, that Masons are also responsible for psychology and the evolution of psychology, and for psychiatry. And it's just, there's a lot of things that do more than suggest that. And especially Germany is a major factor in this as well. Johann Christian Rehl coining the term psychiatry, and we see a lot of mental health, psychology, psychiatry stuff taking place in Europe. Even during the Nazi era as well. Rudin and Kalman and so on and so forth. So yes, there's no way around it. Masonry didn't just have an effect on eugenics. It set the stage for it. It ushered it in. It helped define in the minds of the intellectual community how life should be. And, they twist things. I want to end this by saying they twist things. They talk about, we're on this crusade to end intolerance, but we will not tolerate anybody who lives in a way that we do not deem as acceptable, socially acceptable. They're not fit to live. For example, if you produce an inferior offspring, you're not fit to live. If you're trying to push intolerance when we're on a crusade to make people tolerate even evil, then you're not fit to live. If you step out of place when we have subjugated you with our wealth and intellect, then you are not fit to live. And we see this with the Jacobins and the French Revolution, right? They said, you people are not Masons, and you are ruling over us, and we think that you are intellectually inferior. We're going to use our wealth and our secret network in France to prepare a revolution, and we're going to kill you people. So these people, Masons and the devil, historically twist words that we associate with righteousness, heroism, scruples, ethics, morality, and they twist them and they redefine things. Masons coin things. They coin eugenics. They coin the term psychiatry. They define things. Never underestimate the power of definition. Linguistics, etymology, semantics. Never in your fucking life underestimate the power of the ability to... If I can define what morality is, if I can define what crime is, if I can define what socially normative is, shit, if you give me the power to define things, then I will take over the fucking world, me and my buddies. Think about that. Thank you.